The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
It's here, it's finally here. The 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea is upon us. The medal ceremony does take place on this Friday. It is, of course, Thursday, the 8th of February today. But two of the competitions have already begun in the curling and the ski jumping, I believe. But what event are you looking forward to the most? Let me know. In fact, join the conversation, join the discussion place where we can talk about all things related to the Winter Olympics and high performance in sports. Join our Facebook group. It's Best in the World. Just put Best in the World in the search bar, go under groups, and you should see it in Facebook. I'm going to put a link to it on the show notes page so you can click straight through to it, join the group and join in the conversation. Let us know which sport you're enjoying the most. Who are some of the stars that have inspired you? What are some of the stories and tales from this event that really interest you? It would be great to engage with you on our Facebook group, Best in the World. Come and join us there. Now, it is the Winter Olympics, so of course it's right that this week we speak to another Winter Olympics legend. And I'm delighted to say that I'm speaking to another speed skater this week. We've spoken to a few great ones. I'll send a reminder later in the show of who some of the great speed skaters we've already spoken to are. But this week we speak to the 1,000 metres gold medalist from the last Winter Olympics in Sochi in 2014, it's Stefan Groothuis, the Netherlands skater. He had a pretty tough career, suffering various injuries. He even sliced his Achilles with a skate. And then, crucially, in around about, I think it was 2011, he'll remind us exactly when it was, Stefan suffered with depression, and he talks about what he went through there and how he was able to eventually get over the depression, how he was able to get over this mental breakdown, who helped him, and how he was able to turn it all around and become an Olympic gold medalist. It's an inspiring story. It's a very earnest story. It's a very open conversation with Stefan. He's really honest with me on this podcast, and we talk a whole range of things as well, such as being over-focused. We talk about his real disappointment at the 2006 Torino Olympics. He goes through a typical training day and how it differs between summer and winter for a speed skater, and he gives us an idea of what his morning routine is. There's that and so much more on this week's Best in the World with Richard Parr, with Stefan Groothuis. I can't wait for you to hear it, so let's get to it. He is the best in the world.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Stefan Groothuis, welcome to the Best in the World with Richard Parr. Of course, you had amazing success at the 2014 Sochi Olympics, where you won a gold medal in the 1,000 metres. We'll cover that and your amazing career as well. But let's first start, Stefan, as I know you recently retired from the sport. What have you been up to most recently?
Well, I'm actually trying a lot of different things. First, I started my own company, which I do something with the mental and the physical side of sports. But then, for to tell my story and how we can translate this for companies and also consumers, particulars. I don't know if you even know the English word for that, but just regular people who want to learn something from athlete sports, and special, I'm interested in the mental side of top sports and how we can translate this for other people. And so I'm doing that, but to be honest as well, I like to do something with my hands and to make things. So I also work once in a while as a carpenter, which is something totally different. But I like to build things and make things, so I also do that. So I try different things, and it's a journey after retiring and finding out what to do. Yeah.
What type of things are you making with your carpentry?
Recently we renovated a building in a small town which I live close to, and which is a really old bank of over 100 years, and which had a really cool old style. And so we just everything had to be fixed. So it's more like the whole keeping the old style of the building in touch. We can't just smash everything down. You have to be really careful to hold the historical part of the building, and so I like to. That's really nice to work on that.
Wow, when you said, you're doing a little bit of carpentry, I thought you were going to say something like making little model boats or something like that. No, you're doing full projects. Like, how much of experience have you got in this?
Not much, and I'm doing that on my own. I'm working for other guys, with real professionals who teach me to work on this. But that's that's what I like, to learn new things, and like carpentry is most of it is new to me, and but yeah, you have to really be careful with things and work, and also you're working with your hands, making things, and that's the physical side of sports, maybe what I'm also searching for. I like to be on projects which are more talking about the mental side and the physical side of sports, which are sometimes more kind of abstract. And this is really, I don't know, with the concrete. Yeah, that's like not the right word. Huh? That's the Dutch word for it. You have to be really work on something. You have to really. You can really build something. You see it exist. You can really rise it up from the ground. Yeah.
And had you thought about what you were going to do after speed skating? I know you said you're trying a few different things. You're trying to find exactly what you want to do. Had you thought about it at all before you retired?
Yeah, I thought a lot while my career. I thought a lot of what I'm going to do after that, but I never found the answer. To be honest, there's the kind of normal life after speed skating is almost abstract for a top athlete. It's and as well that's why I'm trying different things, because I also tried even other things last year. I find out you have to be really working and doing things and experiencing things to find out how they work out for you. And making some, I made a few tests. You have some assessments which you can make, and at the end of the test they say, well, maybe you have to get in in construction, for example. But if you never experienced this work at all before, it's pretty hard to tell if you're fitting in this world, fitting with the people working there, if the jobs are fitting with you as a person. So I really found out you just have to try things and then find out, in time what really matters for me and what's really working for me.
And I think that leads us on quite nicely to how you started your career. Like, we all grow up as kids trying different things and seeing what we like and what we're good at and what sticks. So how did speed skating come about for you, Stefan?
Well, I lived at a lake. That's so. And in the winter, the time I started with speed skating, which was in the late 90s, we had some really cold winters in Holland, and we had a lot of natural ice. So there was this lake, and I just every minute I could, I picked up my skates and started on the ice, and I was so in love with the sports from from the moment I learned from it and started skating it. I was really in love immediately with the sport. So even when we got a break in school time, I was in college time, and we had a break from school. I just ran out of the classroom and ran to, there's another lake besides the school, and just put on my skates and would skate for 25 minutes and be just in time back in school. So every minute I could skate, I started with that. And then that was the time I really fell in love. And then I thought, well, maybe I can go on competition skating and I immediately also loved that. Then you go to an artificial skating track, but that was lovely as well.
So you've got this big lake, and you're on your skates every single day, and obviously you ultimately end up with speed skating. Were there any other of the winter sports that you tried and that you were pretty good at on your skates?
No, actually not. In Holland, speed skating is the number one winter sports. We don't have a lot of snow. We don't have so skiing or any kind of that sports is not. Yeah, well, you only can go to on holiday, but we didn't. So I never tried that before, and so I actually didn't do any other winter sports. I tried, and but I don't know if that mattered. Speed skating was. I did some other team sports before, like soccer and other kind of sports, and I liked it, but I find out it was really an individual sport and liked to be in a competition which was really clear. Here's the starting line, there's the finish, and get as soon over to the finish as you can. And that's I really like that, and I like the movement of speed skating, and so I was really in love immediately at this sport.
And you mentioned how popular speed skating is in the Netherlands, and the fact that you are so successful at the sport. I think the most successful nation by far at the last Winter Games. Growing up, I'm assuming there was a lot of competition. Were you always successful there as you were going through the junior ranks?
Yeah, well, I first started at just a regular club, of course, and then it was pretty obvious soon that I had some talent. So it was a small club, and I got really soon a champion there. And then, you find out there's bigger competition, so bigger regional competition, and then it's getting harder. But anyway, I was in the third year I skated. I got already Dutch national champion, so that was going pretty fast. Yeah, I was going pretty fast forward. But the other thing then came around that I got an invitation for the national junior selection, and then I got really fast and good in 3 years, but I only skated 3 years, so I didn't have a lot of training experience. So, which meant I had to pace up with the training a lot. The other guys, at that moment I started to train with in a junior selection, had way more experience with training. And in the fourth year, then after I got Dutch national champion, I had to start training like 10 and then even 12, 13, 14 times a week. And wow. and that's a big difference, which what I was used to, just train like 5-6 times a week. So that's a pretty tough exhaustion for your body. Your body has to transit to this training regime. And then I had a period of which took me longer to make the next step.
Oh wow. Well, I think it's a good time to get an idea of what a typical day was like for you then, Stefan. Why don't you just let us know what a day would be like for you?
It depends on, of course, summer and winter. Like people, it's really fun. It's not funny. It's of course, to understand that people don't know, but most people think, well, speed skating is in winter. you just start in October with training, because then it's the ice and then you get competition. But we finished the season end of March, and then 2 weeks later we start again. We start over for the next season. So and most of the training work has to be done in summer actually. And the other fun thing about speed skating, I think, is we use a lot of different training methods, because in summer most of the time we can't skate. So we do rollerblading at that time, a lot of cycling, a lot of weight training. Also, you have to be fast, because I was a sprinter, so you do some athletic training on the field, and track and field. So there's a lot of different training methods. But in a typical summer day would be like in the morning, for example, 3 hours of cycling, and then in the afternoon one time a weight training, which is mostly not that long. They are like 1 hour, but sometimes you go rollerblading, maybe 1-2 hours. But there's of course in that there's also a lot of different training levels which you use, like you use the intervals, or more extensive endurance or intensive endurance. You probably know them all, but there's a lot of different ways you can fill in these trainings. Yeah.
What was your morning routine like, Stefan?
Well, we used to get up at 7:30 or something like that, and just when we were on training stage, you would go to the dining hall and have a breakfast with the team at 8, and then then you have after that you have some time to reclothe, put your training clothes on, and then, for example, start at 9 with cycling, and we're back at 12. Well, then you have some time to shower, have the lunch at 12:30. An hour of lunch maybe with the team. Then you have some time off until 3 o'clock or something, and then we got the second training of the day, like from 3 till 5, and then the day is over. You shower again and have dinner. So there's a lot of time with the team. That will be a typical day for on a training stage. When I was at home, I didn't live too close to the ice track of Heerenveen. And the Heerenveen in the Netherlands is the national center for speed skating. So I had also some car traveling time to the ice track when I was speed skating in the winter. So, but of course at top sports, there's also a lot of you have your physiotherapist. Treatments. There's a lot of sites. You have your evaluation with your coach about how your progression is going on, and so with another coach, maybe you go see your video and see review your technique, your speed skating technique. So there's a lot of different sites on top sports which you can do on a day, and obviously you don't do them all every day, but and you're busy with your material. Your material, is that a good word? The skates itself. You have to you have to
equipment.
Your equipment, yeah, I was searching for that word. You're working a lot on your equipment because they have to be really, really good, of course. So there's a lot of work on that too. So there's a little, you can busy with your nutrition. There's a lot of sites on athlete sports which you can work on.
What do you mean by work on the equipment? What is a top speed skater looking for from their equipment?
Well, there's where do I start? There's I don't know if most people know that, but a skate that's for a hockey skate and a speed skate, it's all the same. Short track skate. There's a rocker underneath your skate, so the skate is not totally flat. There's a rocker in there, and that has to be really perfect. So and we have special equipment, measuring equipment, which you measure it, and we have the English word for that is a jig, which you put it in your skate, and you can work on your skate with stones to make them a perfect rocker in there. So I can tell you that's a lot of work to make that perfect. But there's also a bend in your skate. You can imagine skating is always going anti-clockwise. So we're going also always anti-clockwise. There's a little bit of a bend in the blade, so the skate already turns from itself a little bit with the corner. So if you put if the skate is getting under an angle in the corner, it will automatically go a little bit turn into the corner. But yeah, there's a lot of fine tuning in that from how much do you want it to go with you, because if it's going too fast coming too quick back in the corner, that won't work. And so that there's a lot of fine tuning in that, and then you have the stance of the blade underneath your shoe, which can be in like 5 directions or something, which you can put it. So and then the shoe is always also I don't know how many, maybe I did make 20 pairs of shoes in my career, or maybe even more. And they're all custom-made shoes, so they have different shoemakers which make custom-made shoes around your feet, which are full carbon-made shoes. And there's a lot of sides of skates which you can fine-tune, and you're every day working on that to make that perfect in combination with your physiology, with your physical strength, to put this power in a perfect way on the ice.
Well, having started this conversation with you saying about finding something mental and physical and making something with your hands, I think we need a Stefan Groothuis skate. That's what I think. Line of skates. Yeah,
well, who knows? Well, there's some good skating makers, and that's actually the boots which I was skating on, the shoes. They are built by a guy which is totally no family of mine, not related, but he actually has the name of Groothuis as well.
Oh, wow.
He's from another part of the Netherlands. And I skated on my own shoes, which, well, actually not mine, but that's pretty fun.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
We'll be back with Stefan in just a moment, and one of the topics we often cover on this podcast is about sponsorship and how athletes and sports stars can get funded. And there's various podcasts that we have and various people we've spoken to, such as Sonia Looney a few episodes ago, who cover it really, really well. I think Brian Clay was also a good one. Go back and listen to those podcasts. And of course, here as a podcaster doing the best in the world with Richard Parr, we need the funding as well so we can keep going, so we can keep learning from the greatest sports stars on the planet. And of course, if you would like to be a sponsor or an exclusive sponsor, or you want to be a part of the program, of course, you can email us directly at sportsdesk@sportacino.com. Sportacino is SPR. Let's see if I can spell it right. SPORTUCCINO. There we go. You can contact us directly there, or you can do it on a more regular basis of maybe a smaller amount at Patreon. Now, Patreon is a crowdfunding website, a bit like Kickstarter, but what's great about Patreon is you can continue to support us on a monthly basis, and depending on how much you support, the more you get back from it as well. We have different tiers from $1 to $5 to $10, all various amounts, and I would really appreciate it if you can help support us. We've got a page, it's patreon.com/best in the world. Please check it out. We've got a few bits of exclusive content there as well. It's patreon.com/best in the world. All right, let's return to the conversation with Stefan Groothuis.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
talking about equipment, and you mentioned training gear earlier. There has been the story in the last few weeks that Norway, who are so famous for wearing their red, have decided to wear blue, and it's all coming down to some sports scientists and some research saying that actually speed skaters go faster in blue. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I actually didn't dive into that. I heard it as well, but that's where it ended for me. In the past, I also heard a lot of time that red would be the fastest because you're more intimidating your opponents with that color. So I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. I don't know what even the logic about this is. Is the
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think they've done some data, they've done some research. Was there anything like that you tried throughout your career? Was there anything which you thought might give you the edge? And in fact, was there anything that you tried, thought it might work, and then it actually didn't?
Yeah, we did a lot. There was some time, and I really didn't like this experiment. There was a time they put oil in the tube of your skate, and the oil was going through the blade and put on the ice in the front of the blade, so you were constantly gliding over a thin film of oil.
Oh wow!
But I was not really happy with it because I already kind of felt that the International Skating Union would forbid this after a while, and that happened. So I had some feeling this was going to be an experiment which did cost a lot of time and to make it perfect. And at the end, it was worth nothing because before the first competition, it was already forbidden. So but also with suits, we had some different. Of course, you had I don't know the English word for that, where there was some thicker layer on the suits different times, which was already started in 1998 with Nagano Olympics, and that was also forbidden after a while. But there were some different experiments with suits, and the thing with suits is it's a lot of these things come back to psychological phenomena, I think. Also probably with the blue suit, it's mostly the intimidating part of it which makes other opponents make them panic and make them skate slower because of that. But it can also work in the wrong direction. I think that's what happened with the American suit in the Sochi 2014 games, for example. The Americans were really good in the preseason for the Sochi games, and especially the women were winning everything. And then they came up with a really special suit of Under Armour 2 weeks before the Olympics actually started. So they only had like 2 weeks to get used to these suits themselves. But then one or two guys skated a bad race in this suit, and the whole team went kind of mentally down, it seemed like, from the outside, because they were all kind of getting in panic, like, this suit is not good, this suit is really bad. So I was always pretty. I think you have to watch out with these kind of new phenomena. There's a lot of guys who are out of the sports and who think, well, we got a really crazy idea which could make the sports better, but they always want to protect their ideas and want to come up with these ideas just before the, of course, most important moments like the Olympic Games. And most of the time it just gives a lot of the situation gets less rest. There's less rest to go to the games, and a lot of people get in panic. And I think that's more happening with these things than they're really actually helping a lot. But of course, there's some, in speed skating we have the slap skate. You call it. The skate is opening. It's in the past there were fixed skates, and that's obviously a really big improvement. So of course there's possibilities, but to improve the sports, but you have to be careful for yourself, I think.
Yeah, I think all of these companies which produce equipment and clothing wear, that they do really need to work closely with the real high-profile sports stars, don't they? There's a really good book, I don't know if you've read it, by the guy who started Nike, Phil Knight, called Shoe Dog, and part of the reason they became so successful is because he worked so closely with Steve Prefontaine and his coach and all of these people, trying to find out exactly what they want, what they need, and I think that really helps them. Stefan, you mentioned the US team in 2014. Of course, you were so successful there. We're going to come on to that briefly in a moment, but I want to talk about your first Olympic experience in 2006. How was that for you?
It was, of course, I was really amazed and not maybe amazed. I was really happy to be able to go to the Olympics, and I was going there with the idea. Well, if you go to the Olympics, and I got that year one time second on a World Cup, I thought, well, if I got second, I can also win here. I can get gold. I was not in a position that a lot of people would think I would become Olympic gold medalist. But for myself, I thought, well, if that's possible, I can also get Olympic champion. So I was really focused there on, and that's of course a good thing, to put there my best performance. But maybe I was a little bit over focused. I skated a really good opener, my best opener ever, and I skated actually the fastest first lap of the whole field of the competition. But then I made a really big mistake in the second last corner, which I flew out and lost a lot of time, and I got 8th. So to be honest, I had a time. At several weeks after this Olympic race, I got literally sick of this game, of this competition. I had to almost throw up every time I had to think of this back at this race, because I had the feeling I felt this game so big, because I had this really bad corner, and which felt like a really big failure. So. Yeah, on the one hand, it was of course a really big and super experience to be at the Olympic Games in Torino. But on the other hand, you also have the feeling like, well, you only get one chance, one shot, and you missed it. So it was a little bit of two sides on these games.
How long did it take you to finally get over that, Stefan?
Get really over it. Pretty long, probably years, and but then that's a side deep inside you, which you can really put away. But on the other hand, you just start and work even harder to get back better than ever before. So I just started to work even harder, and I got back to the season after that and skated really well. But to forget these things, you have to maybe even after you got some other big successes, and that took several years to get the really big successes to get over this. Yeah.
You said you were almost over focused for those games. Was that something you were able to change for future competitions? And if so, how did you do it?
Well, actually, could do this for the first time after probably 2012, when I got world champion for the first time. So that was 6 years later. I make a really brief story of my career now.
Sure.
After this Olympics, I had a good season. 2006, a good season after that. But the season after that, I got a big Achilles tendon injury, so I couldn't skate a whole year, which was of course a big disappointment. I was out there for a whole season.
You sliced it, right?
I sliced it, yeah. I sliced my Achilles tendon. So 2 days before the first competition of the season. So an Achilles tendon recovery takes a lot of time now. So. But then I came back really good. I started better than ever and got Dutch national champion, won some World Cups for the first time. So I was getting at the highest level of international speed skating in 2009. But the thing was, these years I changed of team. I was really good. I was winning World Cups. I was a lot of time the best in the Netherlands, but on the really important games like the World Championships and the Olympic Games of Vancouver, most of the times I got fourth, which was a pretty big disappointment, of course. And I really the one thing I did all of those times from 2006 up till 2011 was, well, I messed it up. I have to work even harder, and I have to work harder, and I have to be more tough for myself, and which I did, but mentally that was pretty hard, and I had a mental breakdown in 2011, and well, that was of course a really tough time to with these mental problems, but as well, it made me really think, yeah, well, why am I doing all of this? For who am I doing all of this? And the one thing I did was take the sports a little bit less serious than I did before. Maybe I took it a little bit too serious in all those years before that. And the strange thing is the season after 2011, which I really stepped in because of my mental problems of, well, what the heck, we'll see what happens this season. I got world champion 2 times, and everything was going way more maybe natural and more of ease. And so that made also a really big difference in the way I went to the Olympic Games of 2014 in compared to like Vancouver 2010 and Torino 2006. Because in 2006 and 2010 there was only one option for me, and it was I have to win gold. And in Sochi I thought, well, of course I'm really good. I won the national championships to qualify myself, and I can be the best in the world. I can be Olympic champion, but the reality is there's 40 other guys trying, and there's a lot of guys really good, and there's also some thing in there which you always you can't just get grip on every fact, on everything in the race. There's also some things which you can't manage, and if you let this kind of feeling loose, I skated better than ever before. So that was an important lesson for me in my life, I think. And one way to also put it, when I went to Torino, there were some festivities around the Dutch team, and I was always thinking, I got sore legs of all this walking and all this. I just wanted to be only busy with my speed skating. And in Vancouver, it was the same. But in Sochi, I thought, well, there's some festivities. The Dutch national king, for example, was getting around, and of course the big opening ceremonies. I was really enjoying it for the first time. I thought, well, this is the games. This is something really special, and now I'm here. I'm just gonna enjoy all of these festivities as well, and not see them as something which are standing in my way to get my best performance. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I do, and I think it's a way of finding gratitude, isn't it, and appreciating where you've come and what you're doing. And I guess in some ways it's also a way for you just to, as you say, almost switch off, so you aren't over focusing. You're allowing your mind and your body just to kind of rest a little bit from the actual day-to-day, minute-by-minute thinking of speed skating all the time. And Stefan, you mentioned there about the difficulties you had in 2011 with the mental side, and it was reported after your victory in Sochi that you had suffered from depression. Who were some of the people who were able to help you with this? Who were some of the people that you leaned on?
Yeah, that's really close related at the first place. Of course, my wife and my parents, my sisters, and one really good friend. And there was some colleague athletes which really supported me. My coach, he was really supportive in a way. He was not like talking to me a lot about what I was going through with this depression, but what he did was he gave me the space and the trust I could come back and everything would turn out to be fine at the end. And that was really important because I was physically terrible in the summer. I was really I was doing some training. We did some time trials, for example, on a bicycle, and I was really crushed by the women in our team, and which is not a good sign for getting into the winter. So there was, but he was not getting in panic, and he was giving me space and time to recover from this. And so my coach had a really big, of course, a big role in this. But of course, your relatives are really important in these days. Yeah.
I'm not a mental health expert or someone who particularly knows too much about depression, but Stefan, how did it kind of end for you? Is it something which just happens gradually, or is it something which, I don't want to say overnight, but you can almost quickly put behind you? There's like a day, there's a moment, there's a word, how did you kind of eventually get out of it?
No, it started overnight, almost, but it ended gradually. Yeah, it's there's a lot of people, because I pretty often tell about this subject in the Netherlands, and there's a lot of people asking me, of course, because if you're there, you just want one thing, and that's to end it immediately. But yeah, to be honest, I don't also have an answer for that, and I don't think there's this one thing answer which ends everything. But time will also heal. I think time is an important factor, and of course there's a lot of other things which you can do to help, and which your relatives and supportive group can help to get you out of there. But there's just unfortunately not one thing, of course, besides maybe medical intervention, but which can quickly help improve things. But besides that, there's not one thing which can really help. But with one of the things which did help me was actually sports itself, because and especially the competition. But being working on my sports as good and bad as it went this summer with training, I skipped a lot of training, but as well, of course, I still went on with training. So I think that's a given, a known thing about depression, that getting off your chair and doing things is an important factor to recover. So I did that, and but when the competition started, my body almost kind of recognized this competition, and it made me really this competition. I started to skate. Everything for a really short time. Everything turned around this competition. There was this depression on all the subjects which I was working so hard in my mind to get them fixed were not that important even anymore, and everything was about this competition for a really short of moment. And in the beginning, of course, after the competition, all the problems turned out to come back, but the competition itself helped a lot, actually.
And you mentioned you won titles then in 2012, the World Sprint Championships, the Single Distance Championships in Heerenveen. Yeah. What was your goals, and what did you realistically think you could achieve when you headed to Sochi?
I was really convinced I could win gold, but I was pretty. Well, I was convinced I could win gold, but the difference was I was not sure, or there was not a totally demand I had to win gold, and that was maybe the difference. I know I was I had the self-esteem that I can win gold, but if I won't, I'm not a total failure or something. It's just that's how life goes sometimes. But that was important for me, I think. And I think a lot of athletes later on, or if they're competing a lot of time and on a high level, are more even demanding they will win the gold or win the big prize. But there's a lot of factors around a competition, and it simply can that somebody stands up and is just a little bit better, and then if you got second or third or fourth, you're not the most worst person in the world. But it can feel, I can tell out of experience, for an athlete, it can feel like that you totally failed. Yeah.
Before we did this interview, I put a tweet out to my followers on Twitter at Richard_Parr, asking them if they had any questions for you. And I got one question. It was actually from another podcast called Olympic Fever, and they recognised that you were 32 going into those Sochi Games. And their question is, what did you do to maintain your physical shape and remain at top form to win the gold medal at an age considered to be old?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, work hard, of course, but as well work smarter. Of course, you get a little bit less in your best physical years in your 30s, but as well you got way more experience with listening to your body and knowing when. And choosing your battles was for me a really important thing. When you're young, you're battling. If you don't watch out, you're battling with your teammates all year long because you want to win every training and competition. And if you progress, you learn that some battles are way more important than others, and sometimes it's just you have to focus on the training effect of what you're doing. And really doing it as work. Well, you have to do your training as a workout and not see it as another competition. And if you get older, you know which competition, which a few times a year you pick out. And here I'm really demanding all of the best out of my body and out of my out of this training. But on the other training, you have to be smart and doing all the works you need to do, but don't exhaust your body too much, which a lot of sportsmen can, of course, overtrain them. But be smart about that. But that's a lot of experience needed for that, I think, and monitor what you're doing. So I did a lot of training data and training diary. I did a lot of monitoring of the training I did. So that made me learn a lot about what was important for me and what was less important for me. Yeah.
And you certainly got your best out of your run in Sochi. You were lap 16. You got the quickest time. Did you think that time when you got it would be enough to get gold, considering there were 4 more races to come?
I was not sure about that. No, I was not sure about it. And I was true with that because Danny Morrison got 400ths of a second, which is, of course, not a lot, behind me. So, but I knew when I skated 1:08:39, that would be a time which was not easy to be beaten by those guys. And the last pair, I actually knew those guys. Wow, I was pretty sure they wouldn't do it, but that's a kind of strange situation because you kind of inside know, well, I'm the Olympic champion, but you can't just go out and scream it out because some guys are still skating, and well, you never know. So, but I was not completely sure, but kind of. I was really happy with the time because I know they're going to be a really tough. This is going to be a really tough time for these guys.
I bet it was pretty nerve-wracking sat there.
It was really nerve-wracking. Yeah, for sure. And the other thing was with the Olympic Games, they take like 2 times as long for a race every time. They take a lot of time to introduce the skaters, and so normally there were 4 races go after me, and normally I would have got off the ice and watched it over there. But I thought, well, 4 races is not that long in a normal competition, but it took like twice as long as normal. So I was like 15 minutes on the ice waiting for what was going to happen. It was really not I was really focused on racing that race, being busy with my tasks, and I honestly didn't thought about, well, what after if I got Olympic champion or something. I was just saying, oh well, what's going on.
And what was the emotion like when that final race ended?
Yeah, it's of course a roller coaster in your mind because of all the things that happened, because of the previous Olympics I did, which I was not successful on. That was a really emotional moment. My coach Jacques Ori, which was there like for 6th year, my coach at that moment, and we worked really hard with me, was there to celebrate it, which was really cool. And then my wife and my parents were also pretty close, so I could go to hug them, and yeah, that's fantastic to share and celebrate these moments with these people.
And I think it's been fantastic celebrating your life and career on this program, Stefan. I really appreciate learning from you and hearing your story, and I think there's definitely lots of things that we can put into our everyday lives thanks to your knowledge. Stefan, just before you go, can you let us know where we can continue to follow your journey online, if there's any websites or social media that we can keep up with you at?
Well, I've got a Twitter and Facebook account and a website which is my name .nl. So Stefan Groothuis.nl. Well, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'll make sure we put links to that as well so people can continue to learn from you. Stefan, thank you for being on the podcast, and thank you for being the best in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for your podcast.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
It was wonderful to speak to Stefan on this week's Best in the World with Richard Parr. Really honest conversation, particularly about depression. And there's been another conversation we've had on this programme where one of our stars has spoken about getting over depression and continuing in sport. And that is with the former world snooker champion, Graham Dott. That was episode 87. Go back to the archives and take a listen to that. Plus, we've also spoken to lots of different speed skaters on the programme. One of my favourite interviews ever on this podcast is with Chad Hedrick. That was episode 57. I've also spoken to Joachim Uydeta-Haag, Jan Blokhuizen, and of course Jorrit Bergsma, all speed skating Olympic champions, all with amazing stories to tell, and they're all available on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Acast, and of course at sportacino.com. Whatever is your preferred choice of listening to podcasts, please make sure that you subscribe to The Best in the World with Richard Parr so you never, ever miss an episode, so you continue to get the greatest knowledge from the greatest sports stars in the world. And if you have a few moments and you're on iTunes or you're on Stitcher and you'd like to give us a rating and review, that would be really helpful too. The more ratings and reviews, the more people hear about our podcast, as we would love to continue to grow. If there's any of these interviews, any of these podcasts which you think any of your friends would like to hear about, please tell them about it so we can continue to spread the word from the greatest athletes on the planet. Well, I hope you enjoy the Winter Olympics. Remember to join in the conversation in our new Best in the World Facebook group. If you want to support us, head to patreon.com/Best in the World. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Richard_Parr. All right, we'll be back next Thursday with more amazing knowledge from the sports stars who are the best in the world. Goodbye.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.